I got some book mail, and the book was Vicious Spirit that came in the mail, which is the sequel to Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. And this was like one of the books that I was really anticipating, so I waited until this month to read Wicked Fox in order to be able to read this one basically as soon as it came out. So because I got this, I kind of really wanted to go like through the rest of my most anticipated books. I narrowed the list down to 15. And I just kind of wanted to go through the ones that I was like eagerly awaiting and what they're about. So kind of let's just get into it. What made me want to actually film this video was Vicious Spirits. I had ordered it like a few days right before it came out, and I actually did get it a little bit late. Like it came out 2 days ago and I got it today because Amazon just kind of was like, whoops. But I'm really excited for this one. I'm actually like reading Wicked Fox right now, so when I saw that this one was coming out, I had to order it right away because I really love Wicked Fox so far. I'm like 100 pages in, so I'm hoping that I'm able to finish it like by the end of this week and jump straight into this book for September. But basically, this is the sequel to Wicked Fox, so we're following Mi Young and Ji Hoon from whatever happens in Wicked Fox, because like I said, I'm not really 100% done with it yet. But you know, they're just kind of dealing with whatever happens at the end of book 1, which I expect to be a lot because it's so cool. Like there's monsters involved and she's a gumiho, and I really actually love Ji Hoon so far. He's my favorite character. There was one scene in particular because I was in Barnes & Noble's with my boyfriend and he was like, what's gumiho? And you know, I was like, oh, so it's like the Korean version of Nine-Tailed Fox. And he was like, oh, so Ari from League. And as I was reading Wicked Fox that night, the character specifically was like, do you play League? My favorite character is Ari, which you would get the irony in since she's also a Nine-Tailed Fox. And I was like laughing out loud. I had to send him a picture and I was like, look, it's you. So, I really like Wicked Fox so far, so I'm very happy. And also, like, this cover art is just stunning. Like, it's absolutely a beautiful book. I kind of want to, like, display it, like, facing outwards. I don't really have the space to do that, but I'll make some space because I think this cover needs to be, like, it's so beautiful. But yeah, so basically, in this book, they're dealing with the aftermath of whatever happens in Wicked Fox. And then, you know, they're kind of dealing with death that happens in Wicked Fox. I'm not sure who dies yet, but I do know someone dies. Then all of a sudden, Mi Young starts feeling worse and worse, and they're not exactly sure what is making her feel worse and worse. So, you know, it's kind of just the journey for them to discover. And I think it's going to be interesting because it does kind of like bring this contemporary twist to a lot of Korean mythology creatures. So that's what I really like about it, and I really hope that there are more like creatures and it kind of goes more into the history of like some of the mythology. So I'm very excited for that, and this actually just came out August 18th. The next book that I wanted to talk about that I'm very eagerly anticipating the release of, I do have it on pre-order, I'm so excited, is Cemetery Boys. Cemetery Boys follows this young trans boy, his name is Yadriel, and his family's just having a hard time accepting him, and he's therefore having a hard time accepting himself. And so he kind of wants to like prove himself to them. So he does this by meeting up with his cousin Maritza. He performs a ritual to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and actually set her free. But something goes wrong, and he actually ends up summoning the ghost of the bad boy that died in his school. And the bad boy's name is Julian. And Julian is not ready to accept the fact that he's dead. He wants to figure out what happened to himself and also just kind of right some wrongs that he's done in his life before he can move on. You know, so Yadriel kind of accepts to help him, and like the more time they spend together, the more they get to know each other, and I think possibly a romance also builds. So I'm very excited. It was really interesting. I'm looking to read more about the culture because I did hear that there is like a lot of Cuban and South American, Latin American influences in it. So I'm very excited to read about that. And I think it's just going to be a really interesting book. So yeah, this book sounds just really, really interesting. I can't wait to learn more about the culture, especially because the author did say like there is some Dia de los Muertos in it, and I don't know that much particularly about it, but it is a holiday that I think is something that would be really interesting to learn about. And I'm just really excited for it. I love the fact that there is a little bit of romance in it. I love the fact that it's supernatural. I love the fact that there's a murder mystery in it. So I'm super excited for that. Cemetery Boys does come out on September 1st. So I think that's the day I'm also going to read it. This is probably like the book that I'm most excited for that comes out in September. But I'm excited for all of them, really. The next book that is also scheduled to come out September 1st is Teen Titans Beast Boy. I'm a little apprehensive when it comes to this book just because I did read my Teen Titans copy of Raven this month, and the main reason that I did pick it up was because I love the illustrator Gabriel Piccolo. He is one that I've been following for quite a while, and I met him at Comic-Con a few times, and I had to meet him again when he was here, and it was a really pleasurable, I don't think that, it was a really like happy day for me, and it was very exciting. I got to meet him. He actually signed my sketchbook because I had started getting into art at that time, and Raven was really my favorite Teen Titan girl when I was growing up. Now it's probably more Starfire, but Raven holds a special place in my heart, and the illustrations were so beautiful. So I was just really expecting a lot from this, and I feel like the story itself actually kind of like tried to have too much and therefore didn't go deep enough, whereas it was so focused on kind of like introducing these characters and kind of giving her this like kind of like dark hidden mystery past that it actually kind of took away from learning about Raven and possibly connecting more to the characters. So I'm hoping that Beast Boy, because he does come off slightly as more like fun and interesting and kind of like a more carefree, relaxed, go with the flow type of character, that maybe he won't need such a deep and broody beginning, and you could kind of actually get to see more of his character. So I'm hoping that I will like it. I love the way Gabriel Piccolo draws Beast Boy. I think he did say that that's his favorite character to draw. So I do know that he definitely has put his heart and soul into this. So I'm really hoping that it will actually like turn the series around for me. So yeah, that one is, again, like I said, supposed to come out on September 1st as well. So still sticking with our September 1st releases, we have Not Your #Love Story. This story follows Macy Evans, who kind of dreams of making it big enough on YouTube to actually make a living and move out of her small town. She meets this kid Eric in this kind of like really super awkward but adorable meet cute, where she actually drops a hot dog on him during a baseball game, and they end up going viral. So, of course, you know, she's getting a lot of attention, and Eric's also getting a lot of attention, but that's not the attention that she wants. But it is the attention that is getting her views and therefore probably making her money. But she knows that the people who are actually subscribing to her are more like trolling and just kind of wanting to know more about this romance that totally doesn't actually exist. Eric, meanwhile, is basking in his 15 minutes of fame because, you know, it's coming from like a small town where you're not expecting it to come from. And so it's just a book that kind of follows Macy and her decisions and how she has to realize that her internet life is not only one that's affecting her now, but affecting the people around her and how people also perceive her. I think this book will do a fantastic job of just kind of showing and highlighting the fact that social media affects us a lot more than we want to believe it does. And I think that having a book like this where she has to kind of face her like actual feelings with the boy and how things can get so easily skewed is going to be a very fantastic read. And this also comes out on September 1st, as I mentioned. The next book that I want to talk about is called We Are Not Free. I am actually quite also excited for this one. So We Are Not Free follows 14 teens who actually grew up in Japantown and San Francisco. We see how the community and the lives get suddenly flipped upside down when over 100,000 people of Japanese ancestry are formed to kind of live in these camps. And I think the book will be one that I'm hoping I could give 5 stars to and recommend to people for a while. I think that this story will deal with some pretty heavy topics that also kind of relate to what's going on in our society today. I'm really excited for this one. I really hope that it does a good job of, you know, showing that even though this has happened in the past, like, it's still something that we're going through, and maybe make it a little bit easier to explain since it is in the past. There's kind of like an outcome that came out of it, and hopefully maybe people will be able to look at what's going on in our country with a new perspective because of this. Oh yeah, this book is also coming out September 1st. Last book for September 1st is When No One Is Watching. Sydney Green is born and raised in Brooklyn, but she feels like her neighborhood is changing every single second that she blinks her eyes. All of a sudden there's for sale signs, all of a sudden her neighbors that she has grown up with and loved for like basically her whole life are disappearing. And so to kind of like reconnect with her town and what it used to be, she goes on to this walking tour where she actually meets her neighbor Theo. All of a sudden, the more that they're learning about the history of their town, the more they're kind of falling into this like paranoid, like, what if gentrification is actually something just bigger than what we're believing it to be? And, you know, they start kind of having this like idea that like, what if these neighbors aren't just moving away because of gentrification? What if something much darker is happening to them? I think that's a fantastic spin on something that we're so kind of like not batting an eye towards. I feel like I might relate to this story a lot because when I came to America, the first place we considered living was Brooklyn, just because you have all of Brighton Beach there, which is a very heavily Russian populated area. And so because we came from Russia and everyone there speaks Russian and all the food there is Russian and the stores there are Russian, we had thought about it. And it's just interesting because I came to this country in 2001 and I, as myself growing up, have seen the gentrification of Brooklyn. And I think it's very interesting that this author has been able to take that and put like a psychological thriller spin on it. So I'm very excited for that, and once again, this book is also coming out on September 1st. The next book I'm excited for is actually a children's book. It's called Seance Tea Party. The title and the cover just got me right away. I think it is just so adorable looking. So basically, after watching her friends kind of fade away, Laura is determined to still kind of have fun on her own. This tea party leads Laura to discover Alexa, who's actually a ghost that haunts her house, and they become best friends. And I think it just sounds really adorable, and I think anything with kids and ghosts and just kind of having that space filled of a lonely child I think is very interesting to me. So this book actually comes out September 15th. The next book is actually a collection of short stories. It's called Vampires Never Get Old, Tales with a Fresh Bite. So this is a short story collection that just kind of put like a contemporary twist on vampires, and it's been such a long time since I've read a good vampire book. I'm super excited, and also V.E. Schwab, which is my favorite author probably. She's definitely top 5. I think she's top 1 out of those top 5, but she wrote one of the stories, so this was an automatic add into cart for me. This book comes out September 22nd. Deadly Education is the next book that I'm highly anticipating. I actually ordered myself the special exclusive Owl Crate edition for it. So this book is like a dark academia type. It is actually set in the school for the magically gifted, where your failure actually results in your death. And we follow Elle, who begins to kind of unlock all of the dark history and the secrets of this school. And it's interesting because you find out like there's no teachers, there's no tests, there's monsters, there's no real friendships unless they can help you survive. So it's really a battle to see who's going to survive, because that's really the only way for you to pass. And if you don't pass, you die. I think this is very interesting. I love the idea of having like these survival skills being like put, and like just knowing like, I think it's going to be a very gripping read. I'm very excited for it. I love dark academia. Like after reading Ninth House, I was very excited for this to come out. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, this book comes out September 29th. Moving on into October, the first book of October that I'm eagerly anticipating is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This follows the story of Addie LaRue, who's over 300 years old by now, actually, and back in 1714 she had made a deal with the devil to grant her immortality, but it came also with a price of everyone who she has ever met has forgotten her. It's very interesting because we do get to follow Addie across time and space, and I think that it's very interesting to see these little flashes of history coming from Addie. But ultimately what has happened is she actually meets a boy in a bookstore that has actually remembered who she is, and we get to see what happens after that. There's a bit of history, which is always like a very interesting spin for me. I love it when people take historical facts and kind of put a person in there to have witnessed it. And then also the little bit of romance. I'm super excited for it. I also did end up spending more money thanks to Alcrate, and actually ordered myself the box for it as well because they were having an exclusive box that V. Schwab actually helped pick out the items that go into it. So I'm very, very, very excited for this. And this comes out October 6th. The next book that I'm very excited for is called Holopox. It's the third book in the Nevermore series, and if you have not read Nevermore, it is a middle grade series that I strongly suggest. So in Holopox, Morgan Crow actually just finished her first year at school, and she's proven her loyalty to Unit 919. So suddenly though, there's this wild illness that kind of gets spread throughout Nevermore, and she has to discover a cure for it, as well as stop the Wondersmith that created it. I think it's definitely an interesting series. It has witches and wizards, and it's very funny because it's middle grade, and it also deals with ideas of friendship and kind of acceptance of yourself. So I'm very excited for this. The author has done a fantastic job with the other two books, so I'm very excited for it. This does come out October 15th. The next book that I'm excited for is Kingdom of the Wicked. In this book, we actually follow two twin witches who live among humans, so they're kind of like witches on the DL because they don't want to get persecuted. But one night, one of the twins is actually murdered, and so Amelia, the other twin, actually seeks out vengeance to her sister. And on her journey, she also meets the Wrath, and he actually investigates a series of women's murders that are happening on the island. I think this has a lot of potential to be amazing. It looks like it will have some interesting twists, and also I really love a good murder mystery. So I'm very excited for this release. Again, I'm just gonna say that I'm excited for all of these books, so sorry if I've repeated that for the 50th time. This is set up to be released October 27th. Moving on to November, we have this cute contemporary called Instant Karma. The book follows Prudence Daniels, who's an overachiever in this small town, and she's just kind of very quick to judge everyone around her. One morning she wakes up and realizes that she can actually cast good and bad karma on people. And there's only one problem. Her lab partner, who she believes to be the laziest person out there, does not get affected by her karma. So I'm very excited for this. I think it has a lot of cute moments waiting to be seen, and a lot of just lessons about learning how to not judge a book by its cover, or kind of give people a chance, because there's more than meets the eye. It's scheduled to be released on November 3rd, and I'm eagerly awaiting Marissa Mayer's writing. I think it's a very easy to read. I think it's still captivating, and it's very giddy to me. I love her writing a lot. Moving on to the last two books that I'm excited for. These are actually both scheduled to be released on December 1st. So the first book that I'm eagerly anticipating is called The Cousins. It's a story that follows three cousins, Millie, Aubrey, and Jonah, and they're all not close to each other, and their family is actually not even that close to their grandma, to the point where these cousins have actually never even met their grandmother. But apparently their grandmother is very rich. This year they actually get invited to come work for her on her island, and when they get there, her parents are just really ecstatic. They kind of push their children to go because they're hoping to get into the graces of the grandmother again and hopefully get some trust fund money. Sorry. Basically, the cousins start learning more about their family and their dark past that actually comes with their family, and it just seems like it's going to be such an interesting book. This book seems really interesting because it kind of deals with like dark family past, so again, this book is actually set to be released December 1st. Lastly, the last book that I'm anticipating is called Link by Link, a Spirited Holiday Anthology. This is a collection of 11 short stories that deal with ghosts, spirits, creatures unnamed, and they all come together. Lessons that deal around Christmas time. I really love a good Christmas story. I think that was one of my favorite books growing up as a child. It just put this kind of like really cool twist on like just learning the importance of Christmas. This book also comes out December 1st. I'm very excited for it because it also deals with ghosts and spirits and supernatural, and also just the idea of teaching you lessons I think is really cool, and I can't wait to have a twist on the classic Christmas tales, which I'm hoping these do. So yeah, those are the books that I'm eagerly anticipating for the rest of 2020, and if you're also anticipating any of these, please leave a comment down below.